Right about now, you are listening to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, a show where we discuss living as a leader worth following, leading others to do the same, and in doing so, leaving a legacy for future generations. My name is Jimmie Gonzalez Jr., a learning and development professional and leadership coach, sitting down with my co-host Anthony Devon Watts Jr., an expert contact center leader that has effectively led and developed dynamic teams with high motivation. Together, we have over 30 years experience in the corporate game. Join us as we discuss our growth as leaders, share the lessons we've learned, and interview others to see how their leadership style was shaped as they were mentored by adversity. Yeah, as you say that, so StrengthsFinders is one of the assessments that I've been going through again myself, and then with the team at the job as well. And we'll actually put a link for our folks, our legacy leaders, in the notes as well. But this is the book. I know it's probably going to be backwards if you're looking at it, but StrengthsFinders 2.0 from Gallup. And I appreciate what you said, because I've been thinking about that myself as I've gone through it and taken the assessment again. When I first did this, I was a team manager. So we're talking about probably 16 years ago, the first time that I took the assessment.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so taking it again now, there are some changes. So I haven't done it yet, but what you just said, I've been wanting to go back and say, okay, so how has my life changed? How have I developed, as a leader? And, why is that? Obviously as time, as your experiences change, those things lead into that. But it is just a good learning experience, again, like you said, to really take a step back and learn from yourself, and how you've grown and what your strengths are. So I'll tell you, belief did not change. That is my number one strength. And futuristic, relator, self-assurance, and arranger are my top 5 strengths. Now, what I
Nice.
what I will say is, what I like about this, man, again, this is something that has been a part of my thinking and development of myself and development of others over the years. So the first time that this really was just magnified, because it is about knowing your strengths, but it's also about knowing the strengths of your people. And like you said, how do you help them leverage their strengths? And the whole premise about strength finders is, when you think about it, the things that you're really good at, if you help somebody to do them more, and even as an individual, if you do those things more, you're going to be happier about yourself and happier about your production. From a production based environment, when people are doing things that they're good at, you're going to be able to get a lot faster and a lot quicker results from them, as opposed to focusing on their areas of opportunity. Right, as a manager, as a leader, we've kind of raised, what are they not doing well, and how do I help them improve on the areas of opportunity or the weaknesses, right? But AOPs. But research has shown, if you focus on the things that they're doing well, they're going to be happier, morale is going to be better, and you're going to get quicker and higher production in a faster amount of time than if you just kept focusing on, again, people's areas of opportunity. So as I was reading this book and challenging myself as a manager, I had a young lady on my sales team, and she wasn't good at closing sales. So her close rate was low. It wasn't meeting goal, but her average ticket, on the other hand, was above goal. So she couldn't get a lot of people to say yes, but when she did, she was able to build that average ticket. So I was like, you know what? Again, I'm learning this stuff. So how do I, start to apply this? So in my coaching sessions, it's not that you ignore the areas of opportunity, you talk about it. But the funny thing is, a lot of the things that we struggle with, or again are an area of opportunity, like, that's just us, that's how we are. So changing those things is going to be pretty difficult to do, and again may take a long time to change some of those things that are just kind of innate in us. So instead of just focusing on those things, again, talking about it, but not focusing on, I'm like, all right, well, you're really good at this. So how can we help you even improve more on your ability to build your average ticket? And for that month, that's exactly what we did. And, we went through different activities and role playing and everything that we would do in that environment to help her improve. And the results were amazing. Just again, seeing her numbers rise, seeing how happy she was. And when you think about it as a leader, even as an individual, if somebody's always talking to you about the things that you don't do well, it doesn't feel good, and it doesn't create a good sense of morale and a healthy environment. So when you're focusing on the things that people do well, it brings excitement to them, it brings joy to them, and again, you're able to get a higher level of production much faster than if you're always just focusing on the things that they cannot do well in their areas of opportunity. So that really just reading about it, learning about it, and then applying it through coaching and seeing the results from that, again, like I was sold. And it's just been something that I've been able to continue to help other people with and just talk about and be reminded of myself. So it's cool that, you've been taking your team through that. I'm doing the same thing with the leaders with at the workplace as well, and just kind of revisiting, that whole concept.
Yeah, actually, I like the fact that you brought up the tangible impact that it has from a morale or an employee engagement perspective. Because you're right, if every time I have a conversation with you is centered around the things that I'm not doing well, then I'm going to want to avoid having conversations with you. And we know just how critically important it is from a relationship perspective, a rapport perspective, to exist in order to cultivate a high-performing team and to kind of move the needle on things. And so, being able to focus or prioritize their strengths and kind of speak more to people's strengths and put them in positions to leverage their strength as much as possible in the work that they do, not only has a tangible impact on the morale, their engagement, the rapport that they have with you, and just the sense of value that they bring to the table. But I think what you'll also find is that it also feeds the confidence, the confidence of the individual in terms of their contributions and their performance. And that confidence actually is a critical ingredient to get people to start stretching themselves outside of their comfort zone and wanting to take on and addressing the things that are opportunities, right? Because
Correct.
It's not that I'm not successful, period. It's not that. It's that I am successful, I have success, and I can also master this other skill set, and how much more successful can I be because of that. And so I really appreciate the fact that you're calling that out, because, it is a little, I wouldn't say counterintuitive per se, but it's counter to usually what we get trained on as leaders, especially entry-level leaders, is hey, you got to find out what's not working, and then you got to go and fix that. And then you got to focus on the thing that's not working until it's fixed, and then once it's working, we may not even really celebrate that. We got to go find the other thing that's not working, right? And so that can be helpful from a process improvement perspective, a systems perspective, right? Hey, understanding the systems and what's broken in the system so that we can fix the issue in the system and create more efficiency. But from a people perspective, you actually, do more to raise the performance. You're more effective at raising the performance by identifying the strengths and then playing to the strengths of the team. So to your point, that's why it's important to take the team through this, because then you start to get kind of a stock of where people stand. And it's funny because I was sharing with my group yesterday. Was it yesterday? Today's Thursday, right? Yeah. So I was actually sharing with my group yesterday in our staff meeting. I was telling them about, just kind of a little bit about my upbringing. We were talking about some development plans that we have for our entry-level leaders. And I was telling them a little bit about my upbringing and how, the most valuable lesson that I got around development and developing and kind of grooming and growing, helping aid growth, actually came from my great-grandmother, who spent all of her damn time in her garden. All her time in her garden, my granny, and she would be out there, and she'd be, she has, flowers on her flower bed, and she would, grow greens and, cabbage and all this different stuff. She had a tangerine tree, and I would just see her out there kind of working, and, I'm running around, trying to stay out of her way as much as possible, because, you know, if we ran through her garden, she would have a fit. She would have a fit. But I'm just looking at her and seeing, like, you know, as a gardener, what she prioritizes. And I remember her saying that, you know, the real key, like, people kind of spend a lot of time focusing on what they're planting and anticipating reaping the fruit, but not putting a lot of time in tilling the soil. Right. And so I think when we're talking about, like, developing your team or developing a high performing team, and you're talking about identifying these strengths, identifying their diffs, identifying their Myers-Briggs, it's because you're trying to get a stock of the soil. You're trying to understand what is the makeup of the soil, because you can be one of the best gardeners in the world. You can have the greenest of thumbs, but if the stock of the soil is not appropriate for what you're planting, right, then it doesn't matter how much you water it. It doesn't matter how much you try and will it. It doesn't matter how much light you put on it. It's never going to grow. It's never going to bloom. It's never going to blossom.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.
You have just listened to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, hosted by Jimmie Gonzalez and Devon Watts. Thank you, and we hope that you live, lead, and leave a legacy worth remembering. Until next time.